Hi boys and girls, it's Socio back with another video. In this video we are going to go through the next set of Premier League fixtures. This is game week 5 now that we're on to. We covered game week 4 last week. Mixed bag, I'm not going to lie. Some of the predictions, the results were good predictions and some of them were absolutely terrible. So, you can't legislate for red cards and things like that. So hopefully this week we'll have a better account for ourselves. But yeah, please, put your sort of guesses, predictions in the comments section. Anything that you agree or disagree with in terms of what I suggest is going to happen in the games. Please throw your say in the comments section. Let's get that discussion going. Okay, so yeah, game week 5 predictions. We're just going to crack straight on with that. So you can see in front of me here in the video, we have the set of fixtures here. So we're going to start with Newcastle versus Leeds. Friday kickoff, 8 o'clock. Newcastle played well in parts at United. I was at that game. And it very much sort of the sort of fever around Ronaldo's return got United through that game. I thought Newcastle were, their formation, like I mentioned quite often, is quite negative. They certainly are well organised, well drilled, but they do have threats in Almiron and Saint-Maximin on the break, and it was very much in full effect against United. It's what led to the goal. Mankier's goal on the right hand side was because Almiron had sort of broke the lines on the counter attack. And Saint-Maximin was doing all that in the first half as well. So I think they have shown signs. I think Newcastle of how they're going to play all season, and certainly a fight and an appetite to stay in this league. I think Leeds have certainly been the underachievers and the biggest disappointment of teams thus far, you would say, other than Arsenal. I think this one's a tricky one, really. I'm not totally sold on either team at the moment, so I'm going to go right down the middle, play it safe. I'm going to go a draw, but I just think both teams, they're not the greatest in terms of keeping clean sheets. So I think there'll be goals. I think Leeds as well. Every team that plays Leeds, they start to turn it into a bit of a basketball game. So I think 2-2 would be a fair result on this one. So that's why I'm going to go for Newcastle versus Leeds, the Friday night game. Let's move on to Wolves versus Brentford. So the early kickoff on Saturday. This one I've waxed lyrical about Brentford in the last video when we did on this, mentioned about how I think they're sort of in the best position to compete in this league out of the teams that got promoted in terms of good combination of footballers and physicality. I mentioned how tall their defence was and how they like to attack their set pieces. Won't cover them too much. I just think like Wolves getting on a win last week, massive for them. I just think they've been great this season. I think a lot of people would be in agreement that they've played really well. They were terrific against Man United. That was a struggle, a very, very difficult struggle. And now they've got some goals in and maybe some confidence is building there. Perfect time to get a home game against a newly promoted team. So it'll be tough in spells, this game, but I'm fully expecting Wolves, probably the game for Jimenez to get his campaign going. So for this one, I'm just going to go with Wolves sneaking home with a 2-1 victory. Moving on to Burnley versus Arsenal. This one, I think, is very much a game where Arsenal, usually struggle. They usually have periods where you question sort of their appetite, in terms of how much they really want to win. I think Arsenal, having Aubameyang back now, who got on the score sheet last week, Lacazette is back as well. I think they're going to start settling down now. Arteta mentioned about how the last sort of 10 days of prior to the game which they won last week, that they it was very much sort of the best 10 days he's had sort of in his tenure at Arsenal. I think they've got a bit of a bit between their teeth at the moment, and I expect them to compete a lot harder. Burnley, on the other hand, they were terrible against Everton, very loose at the back. I think Dyche has just signed a new contract at Burnley, so he's going to stay there for, I believe it's a 4-year contract, so for another 4 seasons. And I think with some of the and another signing of Maxwell Cornet, Connor Roberts as well. I don't know whether they are going to look to explore a more of attacking formation. I think under Dyche, that would probably be a mistake. So we'll see how they play this one. I think they'll probably just revert back to type, which means it'll be a tough one either way. But I'm going to take the pressure off Arteta on this one. I'm backing Arsenal to sneak home a result here. So I'm gonna go 1-0 Arsenal for this one. Moving on to Liverpool Crystal Palace. Liverpool terrific in the Champions League. I know they conceded some goals, but they were terrific against Leeds in the league as well. I think their attacking setup is really clicking into gear. I think it's a massive contrast when you see Alexander-Arnold play for Liverpool and he does for England. I think when he plays for England, he's very much handcuffed. The formation's not really built around him. He is asked to do a little bit more defending and be more responsible. I don't think it suits his game. Whereas when he plays for Liverpool, they all know their jobs really well and how to cover Robertson and Alexander-Arnold in those defensive areas, especially like Henderson, Fabinho as well. And so last season that was very much missed because obviously Henderson got that bad injury. Fabinho had to replace Van Dijk at centre back, so Alexander-Arnold was getting exposed, getting pushed back, having to do way more defending, and so had by his standards a complete ineffectual season. This season you'll see him back to his best. I expect him to be the top assist getter, top chance creator from any fullback this season. So with him back to his best, Salah scoring goals, certainly in the early parts of the season and until we hit mid-season, I expect them to kind of pick up results. So Crystal Palace, great result last week. I don't expect them to build momentum on that for this week. They may show a good account for themselves, but I'm going to go for a relatively straightforward 2-0 Liverpool win. Moving on to Manchester City versus Southampton. I think this one's pretty easy to predict. I think Southampton, they're one of those teams that Burnley struggle against City. Southampton, they've had struggles against City before. Villa are another team that really struggle against City. I think Southampton will get on the press like they do. They always try and play the right way. I just think they're a bit of a depleted squad at the moment. They need to sort of get those easy games, those 6 pointers, pick up the results there. So I just think Man City scoring goals for fun at the moment. They might want to shore up the back a bit. So I can see the Man City getting onto a comfortable lead, and then maybe Southampton sort of like snatching that sort of late consolation as Man City sort of take their foot off the gas, maybe take their drop the ball a bit when it comes to sort of tracking runners and things like that. So Man City 3-1, pretty comfortable, I would expect. Norwich Watford, this one, I think both teams desperate for a win. Both teams, I mean, they've both had games where they've played well. But playing well is not enough in the top league. It's about results, and you can play well for a period of time, but it's all about those key moments and key phases in games. And I think both teams have really fallen short of that. I expect Norwich to being at home, they've had games where they've played well. I think Cantwell's had a good start to the season. Timo Pukki looks like he's come back a lot fitter. I expect them to really show what they're about in this game, maybe sort of take the bull by the horns in this game, and not let it sort of just wander into Watford's hands. Watford, they're obviously going to attack. They seem to be set up to attack this season. They've not got the defensive side. I know they've got Cathcart, who's a really good defender, but in terms of the way they set up under Xisco, I just don't see them trying to set up their stall like that, even away from home. I think that'll be a bad idea, so I'm backing Norwich here, and my prediction for this one is going to be a 2-1 home win. Aston Villa versus Everton. This is a difficult one, really, because Everton are joint top on 10 points and have been terrific. Absolutely blew Burnley out of the water in the last game on Monday. And I just think Villa played quite well against Chelsea in parts. I don't think it was all easy for Chelsea. I just think Chelsea, like I mentioned, the Tuchel train, they're a bit of a machine at the moment. They don't have to play that well. I just think they, like I mentioned about those key moments, key phases, they seem to be the best at dealing with those in games. So they manage their victories very well. But yeah, I think Villa played well in that game. So I think with the home crowd behind them at Villa Park, I expect Dean Smith to sort of understand that when Villa are kind of at their best, they weren't always sort of trying to express themselves, especially with the signing of Leon Bailey and Emiliano Buendia. I don't think going gun-ho or trying to emphasise the attack too much is always the best idea. Their strength is, being physical and sort of hitting teams on the counter-attack, use the sort of ball-carrying ability of McGinn, Douglas Luiz's passing range. And like I said, they've got a relatively solid back four if Tyrone Mings has decided not to pass the ball straight to attacking players, a bit like Jesse Lingard in the Champions League midweek. So all that being said, I think, Everton, Damari Gray, obviously terrific start to the season. This could go either way, and it could easily be an Everton win easily. But I'm going to back Villa on this one to pick up a result. So I'm going to think it's expected to be too tight, maybe some missed chances, and Villa to sneak it 1-0. On to the Sunday set of fixtures. Brighton versus Leicester here. I think both teams have done well considering what they've got at the moment. Leicester, especially with the injuries that they've been hit with. Vestergaard is now back, which is a great sign for them. Schmeichel seems to be in terrific form as well. Harvey Barnes has just had a great Europa League performance. He's had an indifferent start to the season, but I just think he's going to be riding that confidence wave as well. Always difficult to predict after European nights, as you know, with teams' preparations. But I just think Leicester are on a bit of a high at the moment, especially with the injuries, now sort of they're getting over that hump with it. I expect a result, and now Leicester to maybe start to kick into gear and pick up a few more results on the way. So yeah, Brighton playing well. They'll make a good account of themselves in this game, but I'm backing Leicester to pick up a 2-1 away win on this one. West Ham, Man United. This one could go either way as well. It really depends what Man United turn up on the back of that result midweek, because that was a bit of a nightmare. But I thought in terms of the, again, key moments, we were decisive against Newcastle. Like under Solskjaer, I mentioned, without an upgraded double pivot or defensive midfield at United, it's going to be a struggle in games. We're not going to control midfields. I could see that with Souček and Rice. I could see us not controlling this game a lot. I think West Ham have a lot of chances. De Gea's back in form though. I'm expecting probably have a few saves, and then Man United, just as we always do. That's what keeps us in sort of the hunt for top three all the time is, key moments. I think, something like a penalty, maybe a free kick or, a moment of brilliance. I expect that to happen for us again. So I'm going to go Man United, to sneak home an undeserved 1-0 victory at the London Stadium. Spurs, Chelsea. This is the final game of this game, week 5. This one, Spurs have obviously started relatively well. Lost last week after a poor game because, they had a man sent off, and that sort of really, killed the game, essentially. And then Crystal Palace, Edouard Mendy on his debut, had a sort of brilliant little sort of 5-minute spell at the end. So I think, even though Crystal Palace played well, I thought that result kind of flattered them in terms of certainly the size of the scoreline. I expect this game to be, again, Chelsea, I think they keep games kind of tight in moments. I think Spurs, with how they set up under Espirito Santo, and I expect them to keep this game quite close in phases. But yeah, I think Chelsea will win it again. And I think, again, would probably just be something like a, Lukaku bullying maybe Sanchez or Dyer, and they're both coming off sort of off the back of light knocks as well. So I'd imagine close game throughout, edgy affair to close out game week 5. But again, Chelsea to sneak it and continue on their winning ways. So yeah, that's all my predictions, ending with that 1-0 Chelsea win. Please, if you agree, disagree, get involved, put your comments in. I would very much like to read some of them. It's good fun, this one, having a laugh with the predictions and seeing how wrong I get it this time around. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.